Hello, my name is Brent Dundor. I'm a full-time commercial photographer, artist, and activist, and the proud producer of the They Them Project. They Them Project interviews non-binary individuals, offering a platform for them to be seen and heard while informing and educating everyone on how words and actions affect the trans plus community.
Hi, my name is Brent Dundor. I'm the creator, photographer, and producer of the They Them Project, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
Hi, I am Siren Luna. I use she and they pronouns, and I am an artist, and I go by the name of Sci-Fi.
By the name of Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so We'll get to all of that for sure. Thank you for being here, Siren.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you for sharing your pronouns with me.
Yeah.
I'm curious what experience you have with the project and what it represents to you.
Well, I suppose this is my direct experience right now. But I first heard about it when you were interviewing Sochi.
Okay.
I might be getting that name wrong.
Sochi, yeah.
Yeah. No, I got it. When you were interviewing Sochi, and I just had seen pictures and got a little idea of what the project was about, and I was like, oh, that seems really cool. And then I had seen little things about it here and there, and then like I had mentioned earlier, I saw you did Miko's, and so that was really cool to see, especially with someone that I had gotten introduced to recently and gotten to work with. To know a bit more about people is always really cool, and especially in regards to this kind of stuff. And but yeah, and then you approached me, and so I'm really excited, actually.
I forget how we originally, I think I added you, right?
Yeah. I think, I want to say it was for a photo project of some sort.
Yeah. No, I think I just saw you through somebody else through the project, or maybe it was through someone else that added me. And I really appreciated your energy in the photos and your look in general and everything. So I'm excited to hear that you're an artist as well. So we'll try to promote that. Do you have any goals with this interview? Some people have shared that what this means for them is that they don't have to tell this story and explain their pronouns to every single person that they know. Yeah. They don't have to take the time to do that people can watch this video or watch listen to this interview.
I think part of what I want people to take away from this is to see the validity of people that use more than one set of pronouns, because I use she and they. And there's lots of people that use they and this and this and, which just might seem confusing to people who might not get it. So just to try and bring validity to that.
Okay. All right, so we'll get started with the usual questions. But at any point, if you have questions for me, or if you have a question about my question, you can stop me. And I'm really trying to make this more of a conversation than just a Q&A. So,
yeah.
Would there ever be a time that you would be upset if someone asked you your pronouns?
No, not at all. Not at all. I totally had a friendship start like that one time, actually. I'm usually really surprised if people do, randomly, especially if I'm, not in queer spaces. It's something I still, I have to get used to. But no, I will never be offended if somebody asks my pronouns. It's better than a lot of the alternatives I've gotten.
So people outside of queer spaces do ask you what pronouns you use?
On occasion, if they have some idea of it, if they've also had exposure to queer spaces, whatever that might mean for them, if they've had exposure to some of these topics before and have an idea. Like I said, a friendship of mine got started because of that. I don't know if that person was in queer spaces before we had met, but just approached me after school and was like, hey, what are your pronouns? Because I need to know how to talk to you. And I was like, holy shit, that's the first time somebody ever asked me that. Oh my God.
Yeah. I can see on your face what that meant to you, just remembering it. So yeah. How much responsibility do you think should be put on others to ask you your pronouns, similar to that situation, or for you to tell others?
I think there should be a bit more focus on trying to, construct conversations like these so that asking about things like pronouns can become more normal. But I would love to be able to put more pressure on people to like ask pronouns, because there are situations where it's like, you know, depending on the setting, some people can't afford to out themselves for whatever reason due to violence or whatever the situation may be. So like asking is always a safe bet in case that person has any type of circumstances they might be under that needs to be a thing. So I would love to not have to explain myself all the time.
Yeah. There have been that answer has gone both ways and every which way actually. There's been people who have said that they take responsibility for it for themselves. That once they give their pronouns, it's then someone else's responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think the whole point of this project is, in the least, for people to understand that it's a good question to ask.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose I was sort of thinking about my workplace with it, just because that's something we're currently trying to construct, is trying to build up the normalcy of asking people's pronouns. And so we try to do it when people are like in their separate crews together, and we'll meet together. We do it just like a part of coming together for meetings where we're like, all right, everybody, like, introduce yourselves. If we get new hires, we're like, you know, introduce yourself, say your name, your pronouns, you're this, you're that. And but that happened because of conversations like these, where we were like, we have to accommodate for our evolving space.
Where do you work? What kind of work do you do?
I work for a youth development nonprofit that's based out of the Science Museum. They're called the Kitty Anderson Youth Science Center.
Okay.
I've been there since I was 13 or 14, I think. It's a whole pathway thing, and they teach young, primarily like young people of color from low income backgrounds, and not men, I suppose, is the best way to put that, like not cis men, to try and teach them how to use STEM as a way to solve justice problems in their own communities. And so we help like young disenfranchised people get access to the STEM field and like see it as a career option and like a thing that they can use to change their environment.
I think we'll go back into more of what that all means to you in a bit. For now, we'll go back to the regular questions, but I'll get to more. I'm curious more about that and your story as an artist as well. So,
cool.
Are there any instances where you currently use other pronouns?
Not particularly. I've had it pretty much limited to she and they for a while. I do my best to like avoid he and him at all costs. As much as I dislike it, I very much understand people's assumptions about how I look and like associating like, I guess, maleness with me, if that makes sense. Like, as uncomfortable as it makes me, I have to be very aware of that reality. But if it's just like some random person on the street that like, you know, misgenders me for whatever reason, I'm not going to bother to correct them, because it's like at that current time, it's just not worth my time to have to go through that.
Yeah. So you understand when people make mistakes, but you also feel that people should ask the pronouns.
Yeah.
Away from pronouns, how do you choose to define yourself and your gender?
That's something I've been thinking about for a little while. So for a while, I've been identifying as a non-binary trans girl. For a lot of reasons. I feel very like centered in femininity in my own like idea of femininity, but I also have an understanding of myself that can change, as it has already. And because it's subject to change, I don't want to try to put up any walls for myself with that. So I leave my options open. So sometimes it's like, oh, like I really feel especially like a girl today. And then there's some days where it's just like, I don't really feel like much of anything at all. Like I just kind of want to be in energy.
It's only been in the last 1 or 2 interviews where I've started to ask that specific question of how do you define yourself away from pronouns? Because I've started to realize what that means to people. And also I'm understanding how that definition can and will change.
Yeah.
Pronouns, if you use more than one set of pronouns, then not often will that change, is what I'm learning. But how you would define yourself away from pronouns definitely can.
Yeah.
And it's important for people to understand what each of those things actually means, and then what it represents to the person who's describing themselves.
Yeah.
And the fact that every single person is different. Everyone's story is different, and how everyone has got to the point of where they are is different. So, if you're willing, can you tell me more about your gender journey? Like, when did you first start questioning your gender?
I don't remember the specific date, but I remember the moment that happened. I
need a date and time.
I remember I was in middle school, and it was sort of when we were a sort of proto GSA, I guess.
And what is GSA?
At the time, it was a gay-straight alliance, which eventually then evolved into a gender and sexuality alliance, to broaden those sort of definitions and just keep it away.
I didn't know
from
that. I'm glad I asked that question.
Whole balance of gay and straight, and opening it up to, these issues and these connections are beyond just those things.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like a proto GSA, I suppose, and we would have somebody from Out for Equity come into our school, and we would meet once a week and just get to talk about ourselves and our queer identities and but I remember a specific day doing the genderbread cookie, which is this drawing of a gingerbread person, and there's just there's been updated versions of it since then, but you sort of put yourself along this little spectrum, and you're so in my mind I feel like this, and in my heart I feel like this, and just sort of forcing yourself to really look and be so how do I really think and feel and see myself? That had just never been proposed to me as an option before. And so somebody was just well, how do you feel? And I was just well, damn, I don't know. I kind of feel like this, and I kind of feel like this. And so that was the first time I was ever really presented to me as an option to really think about it and be how do I really feel about this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't really think about it for a while, for a few years. There was the one really strong instance that day, and then I just didn't think about it for a while. I just got sidelined by a bunch of other pubescent nonsense. And then I sort of started coming back around to it when I got into high school, because I transferred out of that school. I started going to an art school, which allowed me so much more social freedom. I couldn't be in a big public high school and try to experiment with my gender, and I was very aware of that.
Okay.
So I started sort of just messing around with clothes and stuff. The way I present myself means a lot to me, especially as an artist, and just sort of just kind of how I am.
Mm-hmm.
How I present myself to the world and the things that I show the world have a lot to do with how I'm feeling and what's going through my head and that kind of thing. So I started experimenting with like clothing and seeing what like looked nice on me, and I would run around in like these little just really tacky, really thin like Halloween tights and like these really awful like hand cut like electric blue short shorts. It was terrible. I looked horrible. I loved it. I loved it. It was great. And then after sort of experimenting like that and really taking the time to like think to myself, and I realized that I didn't really fit the idea of like the person I'd known myself to be before. And so I kind of realized I was non-binary, and I was like, well, now that I have a bit more vocabulary on this, after having been exposed to queer spaces now, I finally like learned what they and them pronouns were, and I was like, wow, that seems really fitting for the things I'm going through right now and my current understanding of what my gender is. So around 10th grade, I think I came out as non-binary and started using they and them pronouns.
And I think that people to hear that story is important not just for people that are questioning their gender as much as people from this project are, but anyone can take a look at themselves and understand that there's a whole spectrum involved and that you can fit into any part of that, which is like to infinity and beyond.
Yeah.
So now today, how many years, how long have you been using she and they pronouns?
Well, I was exclusively using she for a little while after I sort of like realized that I was a bit more like feminine of center, for lack of a better, I think it's a good phrase, but like for lack of a better phrase. So I was exclusively using she for like a year or two, I think. And then I sort of went through a period of, like I had mentioned, like not feeling really like anything at all, which was very different for me because I had felt so like secure in my femininity and like so secure in my feminine identity. And then to just be like thrown for another loop like that was just like, hey, by the way, you know, you might not always stay in this place. And like I've fluctuated in and out of that since then, just like those couple of feelings related to my gender. Well, and when I sort of started to become comfortable with that was when I was like, I'm going to use she and they, just because now I realize that my understanding of myself is subject to change.
So I've asked this question at the beginning of the project. I was saying, well, okay, you've given me 2 sets of pronouns. Which one should I use? And I've learned through people that I've had people be like, if I tell you both, I use both. You can use either. But I also have learned to just ask, like, are there a set of pronouns that you prefer today or in any other specific situation?
No, generally I'll respond to she and they. I usually try to tell people like neither are preferred, but I'd love if you just use those. Like, please don't get me messed up right now.
Yeah. Well, okay. And I haven't gone this far with that question before, but like we were talking about Miko, who you had listened to their interview, and I had asked you, did you listen to their first one or their second podcast, because we did a follow-up with them. I did a follow-up with them. And when you were referring to Miko, you were using he pronouns. When I was referring to Miko, I was using they pronouns.
Yeah, because when I had gotten introduced through the brunches and stuff, that was just like how I was introduced to them. Yeah. It's just like, oh, like talking with Shannon
Blowtorch?
Yeah, because she was DJing the brunches, and she was just like, oh yeah, like he's a great singer, like great performer. So that's just like how I had sort of been intrused. So even that was just like my understanding.
Even when I was interviewing Miko and their partner, they were using both sets of pronouns. So when I was talking to them, I was using they, them, their pronouns. And at a certain point, and you might have heard this in the interview, I was like, is there a certain set that I should be using? Because I wanted to make sure that I would, like, they were using different ones than what I was using in the interview. And what I've come to realize is that if someone gives both sets of pronouns and people are using both sets of pronouns, you can use both sets of pronouns.
Yeah, generally. I know I've like met a couple of people that are kind of like, I have the option for both, but I lean more heavily towards one. But yeah, from my personal experience, I pretty generally respond to either. After being like exclusively she for a while, it took me a bit to adjust back to people using they with me, and I was just like, oh, like that to the ear sounds wrong, but feels right.
Okay.
Because I'd gotten so used to just using she.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh, I gotta readjust and like go back through this, blah, blah, blah.
Have you always gone by Siren?
No. I won't say my birth name, but I will say it was, because I'm Afro-Latinx, and so the name is definitely Latinx, and it's definitely very heavily associated with masculine things. And that, like, when I learned that, it was around the time that I was sort of starting to question a lot of things regarding my gender and like my presentation and all this kind of stuff. And it just, something about that made me so uncomfortable. I started, I think, officially around 10th grade or so when I came out.
Okay. And again, I don't know how old you are, so it's better for us to say like years.
I'm 20.
Okay.
So I think it came out when I was around 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I've been going by that name for about 5 or so years.
Okay. So what does Siren represent to you?
A lot of things, I guess. The name kind of came from a lot of places. I used to be a really big writer. Not that I still don't write. I just write, songs now. But I used to write a lot of stories and stuff. And so part of it was that I was trying to use the name for a story and trying to find some way to like incorporate this. And I could never find a really good last name to go with it, which like bugged me so much. And then also around that same time, my brother had brought home a copy of the Odyssey from school. He's a few years older than me, and I just remember that he had brought it home one time, and I just like found it randomly one day when I was looking through stuff, and decided to just sit down and give it a bit of a read, and like learned about the sirens, and I thought those were really cool, and like especially after seeing movies like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and like the scene they have like a whole. The movie's modeled after the Odyssey, so they have a whole nother scene in that movie with like sirens, but just like not how you would normally think of them, I suppose. But yeah, so the name just randomly wound up meaning a lot to me, and so when I was trying to think of like names that fit me really well, that was the one that just kept coming back again and again and again and again. So I just kind of started testing the waters at first, and I was just like, I just kind of want to see how it sounds. Like, does this name really fit me? And then I got really used to it, and I was just like, yeah, this is definitely me.
How would you define the name that you were given at birth? Some people have called it their dead name.
Yeah.
How strongly would you
I usually say dead name. Okay. Mostly just referring to the name itself. I don't think that person necessarily is gone or whatever, that may mean for some people, but for me, it's just the name is dead to me.
Okay.
I live and I grow with this name and this identity, and to be able to leave something behind that it no longer fits there is relieving.
What does it mean, or what would it mean if someone does use your birth name when speaking to you?
I'm generally a person that just tries to like take things as they come, so I try to just. A lot of things are very contextual for me. It like happens at home, and that's sort of something I can't avoid right now. Like it's still a journey my family's making. Like I have come out to myself and grown, and like I'm still working on understanding my identity and all these things, and so I'm much farther along this journey than they are. So I know at least to some degree it's just like a getting used to it kind of thing in my household. It's happened at work a couple of times. Once just because I ran into a coworker who hadn't known me since I came out. They had left the space before I had come back and reintroduced myself. So they had no idea, so I didn't really blame them for that. And then one other time it happened, but it was during like a really endearing thing, and like the overall message was like really endearing and really sweet. Just like the part of the delivery was not cool with me, and that was the part that included my dead name. But it was just because like this person had known me since I was in middle school, like as a teacher. Yeah, had known me like since I was in middle school, and was just talking about like getting to watch me change and grow and all that stuff. So like the overall thing was really endearing, and I was like, that's great, and I love it, and you're great, and I love you, but please don't do that.
Yeah. When someone has used the wrong name for you, do you feel that they also are challenging your gender? Would you connect those two things? The examples you've used are people who knew you previously.
Yeah, so part of it is, like, I know when my friends did it when I was first transitioning, it was never anything out of malice or anything to do with, like, them not wanting to understand my gender or whatever. It was just like a genuine mistake. They were like, just like, oh crap, like I'll get it. And they got it. And that was really cool.
Yeah. I think what you keep referring to, other people have simply described it as intent. It's different if someone is intentionally hurting you and if they aren't. And when someone is not intentionally doing so, it's a mistake, and you can move on.
Yeah.
You ask them to remember, and you show them that it's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example of when someone has done the opposite? Can you give an example of when someone has validated your gender and how it made you feel?
The first time I bought a bra, that was awesome. Who was I with? I was with a couple of friends of mine, and I want to say it was the summer between 9th and 10th grade. So I think I was still like 14, 15, in that range. And me and a couple of my friends had gone to a thrift store, and we were just like looking around, and it was the first time I had like felt safe enough and like in the right space to look at dresses and like cute clothes and all that kind of stuff. And I had found this really cute, like super padded, like red bra that was just the right size, and I was like, it fits my body, just right. It like fits sort of my proportions and everything. And so when I got to go home after that, after buying it and like buying a dress, and I got to go back to my friend's house and try it on, like it was just one of the most validating feelings ever. And it was cool to like have him there to be like, this probably isn't weird, like drag queens have to shop and like, all the just like small, like endearing kind of things of how we understood how to validate each other's gender at the time, because he was also transitioning. And so going shopping was a part of like helping each other kind of get to see ourselves the way we want to.
Yeah, that's beautiful. If someone is having a hard time remembering, understanding, and respecting your name or your pronouns, what suggestions do you have for that person who wants to be able to do that?
I mean, honestly, just talk to me. Like, if you're having a hard time understanding it, like if it's generally just having a hard time understanding things, like I'm down to have conversations and just do like some general education stuff. Like it's what I do. I'm a teacher. It's just kind of how I am. If it's specifically with me, still like come sit down and talk to me, and I'll do my best to like, explain as best as I can, but to a degree. Like I have to know what the line is for myself, and I have to know like what battles are worth fighting. And like some people just don't want to change how they think about it, and that's not worth my energy.
Yeah. If someone was going to you to challenge you on it, it probably would be a different story than if they were trying to understand it.
If someone was being really like devil's advocate about it, that's not worth my energy.
Yeah.
It's just like if you came in knowing you wouldn't try to understand it, then I'm just not going to try to explain it to you.
All right. So I always, we had talked about what you do through work and the fact that you're an artist, and I like to give people a space to promote themselves or any organizations that they value or work with. So tell me about everything that is Siren.
Cool. I suppose I'll get to the work first, because I was working before I like was officially an artist and like trying to do things with it. So highly recommend you do what you can to support the Kitty Anderson Youth Science Center. We're based out of the Science Museum in Minnesota. There's a really cool exhibit there also right now about mental health. It's called Mind Matters. I haven't gotten the chance to see it yet, but I really, really want to. I'm really looking forward to that. The Kitty Anderson Youth Science Center, like I had mentioned before, teaches disenfranchised youth how to use STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. We teach them how to use just core concepts from those areas to create social change. So we have a group of young people who created an app, like designed it, coded it themselves, did the whole shebang, like all just high school age young people.
Huh.
And they created an app for people that live in the Frogtown community, so that it's just a map so that they know where they have access to fresh, healthy food in their area. Because Frogtown has always been given this reputation that it's a food desert, like it's a place where it's like hard to find healthy food. And they went around and they found out that's not true, but it's just a narrative that they've been given. And so they wanted to kind of help reshape that narrative of Frogtown. So they were like, you have to realize that like these places are available to you and accessible to you, and we're going to do our best to make sure that you can have the things that you need. So yeah, that was just like one example of just like a lot of really cool stuff we do.
And then you as an artist.
Yeah, me as an artist. I consider myself to be an experimental hip-hop artist and producer. I go by the name of Sci-Fi. spelled just like science fiction. That name came from an old friend of mine, actually. She was just like trying to come up with cute nicknames for me. And I was like really, really, really into Doctor Who at the time. Not that I'm still not, but like particularly intensely into Doctor Who at the time. She was like, "Can I just call you Sci-Fi?" And I was like, that I like the ring of that.
And if people wanted to find out more about both of these things, where do they go?
So for the Katie Anderson Youth Science Center, we have an Instagram and a Twitter. You can also find a bit more information about us on the Science Museum's website. There should be a little section for it if you like scroll to the bottom of the page, I believe, and there's just like the breakdown of the different sections of the website, and you can find the KAYC. For my art, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
What's your handle on Instagram?
My Instagram is at World of Sci-Fi.
Okay.
My Twitter is at Siren DeLuna. The last name is DELUNA. And then Facebook, also World of Sci-Fi. My page is there. I've got lots of random photography stuff and music stuff. And yeah, I'm going to be hopefully I'll get the green light to promote some cool stuff soon. I'm waiting on some emails.
Cool. All right. Do you feel race plays into gender identity and acceptance of someone's gender?
Again, it sort of depends on context and how connected you are to your culture, because there are some like indigenous cultures that already have understandings that like gender isn't very strict. Like most indigenous cultures around the world already have an understanding that like gender isn't totally binary. Like I believe in the Torah, there's something like 6 or 7 genders, and like India has an officially recognized third gender, and so there's already been these understandings in cultures all around the world. But I suppose it sort of depends on how connected you are to that culture and the culture behind your understanding of your race. I definitely think that as a trans woman of color, I have a harder time passing. As kind of gross as a term as that is, I don't have better language for it currently, or haven't been given better language. So, I realize that like trans women of color particularly have a harder time passing than lots of other like trans folks that, desire to be cis passing if they so want to be.
So a lot of what we're talking about brings up the word privilege. I've talked about that in the last like 3 or 4 episodes. So as opposed to me reiterating what I've said before, what does the word privilege mean to you?
Before it used to mean like, because the first time I ever started really hearing the word was like when kids used to get kicked off the bus, like in school, when I was in elementary school, and they were just like, "It is a privilege to ride the bus." Like, this, like out of the kindness of the taxpayers' money, you can ride the bus. But now just my understanding of privilege has changed a lot now that I've become more aware of like how my race and my gender play a role in how I'm seen in the world. So now my understanding of privilege is very much based in systems and based in societal norms and things like that. So to me, privilege is having, I suppose, the advantage to be able to, having the ability to, Sorry, this is like stuff we think about with work too. So we think about stuff like how do we define justice and how do we define, so this is also something we're thinking about, where it's like, how do we define privilege?
Yeah. I think, like I said, I've shared a lot about what I've learned about privilege and how thankful I am that this project has really given me a new perspective of what privilege represents. I'm very thankful for that. But along the lines of what you are talking about, I think it all comes back to how other people perceive you. It's the idea of how other people perceive you.
How much can I blend in?
Yeah. And for the last two or three people that I've interviewed for the project, they've talked about how in their journey and their transness, they've both lost and gained privileges through their growth. And I think that it's a really interesting concept. And again, if people can take the time to try and put yourself into other people's shoes and listen to other people's stories for that reason alone, you're going to learn a lot.
And I think that's also kind of, that just like made me think of a story, just kind of talking about that. The first time I had ever like really, really experienced like transphobia out in the world outside of like queer spaces. Tried to go to the bathroom somewhere, and I was like all dressed up and everything. I had like my best dress on, and really cute shoes, and like I had a buzz cut then, so I was wearing like this really cute wig and like all this kind of stuff. And I was just trying to go like fix myself up in the bathroom, and some lady like had complained or something, and then the security guard like came to escort me out of the bathroom, and like I just like broke down. I was like crying in the street, and the lady was like yelling at me and blah blah blah, and I was just like, no, like I need you to understand that it's super legal for me to be in, like I'm allowed to be in here. And luckily I was only like a couple of blocks away from where I had left, so I went back, and it was the safe space I had left. And it was weird because I had shown up, and I guess right before I had shown up, the person who's facilitating the space, who is a trans man, was also talking with another one of my friends who is a trans man, and they were talking about how they feel really lucky about the fact that they can go to the bathroom much easier than trans girls can. And so, like, that's what that reminded me of like gaining and losing privileges. And they were like, you know, we're lucky enough that we, you know, pass as cis well enough that we can go into like men's bathrooms, quote unquote. And then that happened, and I had come back, and like that had just happened to me, and they were like, oh my God, like this is exactly what we were talking about. And they did a really great job making me feel really safe, and just
you're lucky that you had them there.
Yeah, definitely. And we like had to go back down to the people, to like the security people that had like kicked me out of the bathroom or whatever. And we were like, this is legal, and we can like sue the hell out of you. And
is there anything else with that situation that you feel is worth describing or explaining so that people again can put themselves into your shoes?
I mean, it was honestly just humiliating. Like after that, I literally went out on the street and just like sat out front of a bank downtown and just cried in my striped stockings and my dress and my heels. And I was just like sitting in front of a building crying because it sucked. It was at that point just like the worst experience I'd had related to my gender identity. And it was just one of the most like invalidating experiences to try and just run into the bathroom quick to fix myself up before I went home. That's all I wanted to do. And then, yeah, it was really scary in the moment because I was definitely a bit more like hyper feminine at the time. I was very much, you know, I suppose overcompensating. And so that was also kind of insulting just because I had been trying so hard and then still got called a man and still got kicked out of the bathroom and still, you know, this and that, even though I had been trying so hard to not have something like that happen. So
how does that happen? There's somebody in a bathroom that like, I don't even understand how why they would take the time. Like how is someone so close-minded and my strong worded opinion, evil, to actually take that time?
Well, because I think in that particular instance, because I think she was washing her hands or something, or had like just gotten out of the stall when I had entered the bathroom. And so I think she kind of saw me without really realizing, and just made an assumption and went and told the security guard, because the bathroom was right around the corner from the security desk. But I don't know why she took the time to do that. I guess they like had problems previously of like men trying to creep on women in the bathroom there. I guess it like had been an issue before. Yeah, and I'm like, if a man is going to go into the bathroom to creep on a woman, he's not going to dress up like a woman to go creep on a woman in the bathroom. He's going to go in there in whatever he's wearing and then just go peek through the spaces. And
do you think that this conversation, this part of this conversation, is important for people to hear?
Yeah, especially after that whole crap with like Target and them being like trans folks can use the bathroom wherever and like people throwing a big fit about it. Like, I think it's so important to hear all the bathroom conversations because it's just like, it's so dumb. It's such a stupid conversation to have, but it's a conversation that has to be had. And like, as frustrating as it is,
it's so dumb. But at the same time, again, if people can listen to this story and they can just imagine what you felt like in that situation, they're going to understand how silly this is and how it hurts.
Yeah, like I was terrified because, well, especially like being a black person, like I was like cops are already an issue. So like the security guard with like the whole like pretty much similar get up with the badge and the whole everything. Especially on top of that, I couldn't like keep my voice pitched up because my heart was beating really fast and I was really scared. So I couldn't like, keep it way up here where it sounds like extra, like whatever. So I had a hard time like maintaining that outward femininity, which like made the situation worse. And so it was just terrifying to have this like person, this like alternative looking person in like a dress that just has this like deep voice. Like my voice is usually way down here normally. And so it was just, there were a lot of things that definitely didn't help the situation, I suppose, like from the fear, because it scared me so much that I just couldn't keep myself together. I was like, I feel like a mess.
All right. What can trans allies do to help work towards trans liberation and equality? How can people make the world a better place for trans and non-binary people away from just respecting their pronouns?
Just listen to trans people. I always try to like equate this to a lot of other things because like intersectionality matters and like these principles apply across lots of different like identity like things. Just listen to what the people who claim these identities are saying about these situations. Like, listen to people of color when they say things about race. Listen to trans people when they say, listen to trans and non-binary people when they say things about gender. Listen, nothing about us without us. Just give us the space to be able to tell these stories and really take the time to listen and understand and do your best to be as introspective with these things as possible. Because I think introspection helps a lot. Whether or not it takes you on a personal journey with your own gender or whatever, I do think it's really important to take the time to be like, to really take the time to gain an understanding of your own gender if you haven't taken that time before.
What you were just mentioning, I've gone through this whole phase with this project where I was questioning if I should be the person to be doing this project. And I was literally asking people in the project when I'm interviewing them if they feel I should be. And where the conclusion that I came to is exactly what you were just describing. What I'm trying to do with this is give other people a place to speak. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I'm okay with all of it is because I'm not trying to tell that story.
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing. I think there's definitely a lot of value in that. I think it'd be a lot different if like you were trying to say these things and tell these stories, but it's more that you're just providing the space for people to tell their stories, which I think is really important, like doing exactly what you're doing, like giving folks the space. to be able to say these things, I think, is really important, especially if you're standing in a place of privilege in regards to whatever you're talking about. So, like, you know, just being able to look at yourself and say, like, I need to take a step back and I need to really listen to what these people are saying, because I'm not the one that is being, like, you know, persecuted, or, you know, whether it be like systematically or interpersonally or whatever. Like, I need to listen to the people that are being affected by these things.
Yeah, and I mean, it becomes kind of selfish for me to just talk about this, but, like, that's what I've learned even more from this project. I say it in every interview now, but, like, my husband is Latino, and I can see how the world sees him at times. I can't say that means that I understand exactly the way that he feels, but through this project, and it's the time that I'm giving people, it's like a gift of me learning. I mean, I'm growing every single interview, and ultimately, even if it's not through this project, if people give other people time and they're really listening, that's when you start to get stuff.
One other thing, allow yourself to be uncomfortable. That's like a rule that we have in my workspace. It's just like part of the core foundation of, like, set of rules that we have for the entire space. Like, when you enter this space, you have to be, like, ready to engage, and you have to be ready to be uncomfortable, because change, like I said, whether it be systematically or interpersonally or intrapersonally, it doesn't come unless you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't want to change something unless it makes you uncomfortable.
Well, so I'll add something I haven't talked about in this project. And just last week or recently, there was Youth Pride, and it was happening in Minneapolis at Lorain Park. And I had the opportunity. I found out about it, and then I asked them if they would want the gallery pieces that I've created there for youth to see and read about this project. And they asked if I wanted to be there and table through the event. I have tabling experience because I've worked with a nonprofit before. I understand what all that means. And I think all of this is important for me to express. So what I've said about this project is that it's as much everyone that I have interviewed, it's their project as much as it is mine. The photography is something that's personal to me. Yeah. And so the gallery becomes personal to me. But there's this line that I've been fearful of because of how it will make me uncomfortable, of should I be the person at the gallery spaces, because this is starting to happen now where people are really interested in having this in different places and at different events. And I always say, well, I need to get people from the project to be there to talk about this. And in this instance, no one was saying that they would be there for it. And I said, I probably should, I can bring the pieces to you, but I shouldn't be there. And someone from the project said, no. Like, it's the exact opposite, Brent. They said, and I'm so thankful that they, like, stuck up and, like, argued with me about this. Yeah. Because they're like, your perspective of this project is just as important as people that are part of this community. Like, people are relating to the fact that you are doing this, that you are listening, and you need to answer those questions for the people that are probably in the same place. You need to be there to do that. Yeah. So that's like that I've learned to try and be strong in those moments, in that concept. And now that's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to be there, and I'm okay. It's going to make me uncomfortable. Yeah. But I'm just going to be honest. And obviously, I've learned a lot from this, and I can just answer to that.
Yeah. Like whoever was saying, just the perspective that you have, and just like you had mentioned, the reason for doing this project, being someone who was ignorant on the subject and taking the time to be like, I want to explore this and, like, begin to understand it and, like, take this on. You're providing a space for other people. There was an activity I did for a thing for work called Fearfully Ask Questions. And so you're sort of providing the space for that, where it's like there are people who, like cis folks, who might not have an understanding of this kind of thing, and want to ask questions, but are afraid to ask non-binary people, because they're afraid they're going to ask something stupid, and they're afraid they're going to make somebody mad. They're afraid they're going to, whatever. And so you're providing a space to ask those fearful questions.
And I always, with that concept, I always say that it's almost more often than not that you shouldn't just go into asking someone these set of questions unless you've asked them for that space. Because it's always okay to ask someone what pronouns they use, but beyond that, you make sure that person is wanting and ready to give you that energy and that space.
Yeah, if you just like come up and ask my pronouns, like that's cool. But if you like try to move it in like a whole conversation about like my gender and like, if you just come up to me, like if for whatever reason, if I'm at Pride, if I'm at an event, like whatever, that's just like it's a whole conversation.
Yeah.
Like we got to take time and like, let's like take a time to like go out and sit down and do this. And so it's definitely something that takes a bit more elaboration and, discussion and time for things to sink in.
Okay. What advice do you have for youth who might be questioning their gender identity?
Try to find things that make you feel authentic in yourself. And I use that word specifically for a reason, is because, well, like I had mentioned before, my outward appearance means a lot, not just to myself, but to how the world sees me and to how I'm going to be seen, and whether or not that will get me into trouble or get me into whatever. But try to find the things that make you feel authentically yourself. So for me, some days that means like wearing my battle vest with all my patches and my pins and my this and that or whatever. But some days being authentically me means wearing flowers and leggings and big boots and, having my hair up and having my hair down and twisted and pigtails and, whatever. Just try to find what makes you feel like the best you.
I like that. And I love the term battle vest.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it as that exactly yet.
Some people call them like crust vest, which I totally understand. There are definitely some crusty dudes that hang around Dinkytown wearing those kind of vests.
And people, I think, have called it armor.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Call it a battle vest. I made a really funny joke about it, or I think it was funny. I made a funny joke about it one time. It's just like, what do you call it a battle vest? It's like, because I fight fascists in it.
Okay. What advice do you have for parents who might have children who are questioning their gender identity?
Like I had mentioned, allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because I also totally get from like a parent perspective, if you don't have exposure to queer spaces or like gender nonconformity in whatever degree, that can be really uncomfortable. But let yourself be uncomfortable and try to learn alongside your child, and provide that space for them to find their own personal brand of authenticity.
Is there anything else you would like to say to anyone listening?
I would like to say thank you to Billy Navarro for sort of opening up these spaces to me that allowed me to have understandings of these things and allowed me to learn about these things and gain understandings of myself. Because he ran the safe space at my high school that I would go to every week. Like I said, which opened up a lot of these things for me and a lot of these concepts, and have allowed me to find more of my authentic self. So like, thank you so much for that. And just like, thank you to Out for Equity and like Outfront in general for giving me the spaces to like just promote positivity centered around queerness and transness, whether that meant like working events or whether that meant, making phone calls or, helping out with the brunches or whatever. So just, big thank yous to all the people that have provided me with spaces to grow and learn.
All right. Siren, thank you so much for being here and being part of the They Them Project.
Yeah, no problem. I was really happy to be here.
Did you know the best place to view the project is through the website, theythemproject.org? It's the only place you can see all the photos and videos and easily share the project to help it be seen and make a difference. In addition to the website, They Them Project is everywhere. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast through iTunes and Google Play. Remember that the project grows and informs only when it is shared by people like you. Go to theythemproject.org and share what you see and hear.